Imagine waking up every single morning with a heavy, invisible weight pressing down on your chest. You brew your morning coffee, look out the window, and realize that before you even start your day, you owe the world a staggering amount of money. For one family, that weight materialized as a crushing mountain of over $100,000 in combined student loan and credit card debt. It dictated where they lived, what they ate, and how they dared to dream about the future. The stress of living paycheck to paycheck was not just a math problem. It was an emotional anchor dragging them away from their true potential. But what if that anchor could be severed, not in decades, but in a fraction of that time? The turning point rarely arrives with a winning lottery ticket. It usually comes with a quiet, resolute decision to stop accepting the unacceptable. They looked at their sprawling balances and realized that hoping for a miracle was a terrible financial plan. Instead, they embraced a radical shift in perspective, recognizing that their income was their most powerful wealth-building tool. And right now, it was entirely spoken for by past decisions. To reclaim their future, they needed to fundamentally rewrite their relationship with money, trading temporary comfort for lasting financial independence. Their weapon of choice was the debt snowball strategy. This highly effective method involves listing all your debts from the smallest balance to the largest, completely ignoring the interest rate. You pay the minimums on everything, but you attack that smallest debt with every single extra dollar you can find. Once the smallest balance is wiped out, you take the money you were throwing at it and roll it into the next smallest debt, creating a powerful momentum that builds exactly like a snowball rolling down a snowy hill. The brilliance of this approach is not rooted in cold mathematics, but in human psychology. When you eliminate that first small credit card balance, a massive rush of dopamine hits your brain. You see tangible, undeniable proof that your sacrifices are actually working. That early victory fuels the intense, burning motivation required to tackle the larger, more intimidating student loan balances waiting further down the list. But the strategy alone was not enough to conquer a six-figure deficit in just 3 years. They had to inject massive amounts of capital into that snowball, which meant adopting a lifestyle of extreme frugality. Every single expense was placed under a microscope and ruthlessly interrogated. Dining out became a thing of the past, subscriptions were canceled without hesitation, and expensive vacations were replaced with free weekends at the local park. They were not just cutting back, they were stripping their lifestyle down to the absolute studs to free up maximum cash flow. Income generation became the second critical engine of their aggressive timeline. They realized that you can only cut expenses so far before you hit a hard floor, but your earning potential has virtually no ceiling. Weekends and evenings were no longer reserved for binge-watching television. They were aggressively repurposed for side hustles. From freelance writing and evening tutoring to selling unused items around the house, every single dollar generated outside their primary jobs was immediately funneled directly toward the debt. This level of intensity requires an extraordinary commitment to delayed gratification. It meant saying no to social invitations, ignoring the shiny new cars their peers were financing, and wearing the same clothes season after season. They had to constantly remind themselves that they were not depriving themselves of a good life. They were simply delaying temporary pleasures to purchase a permanent sense of freedom. The discomfort of today became the exact currency they used to buy back their tomorrows. The months turned into years, and the momentum of their efforts became an unstoppable force. That initial trickle of extra payments transformed into a raging river of cash, sweeping away massive chunks of principal. The student loan obligations that once felt like a lifelong sentence began to rapidly shrink. The credit card balances that used to trigger anxiety attacks were completely zeroed out and the accounts were closed forever. Think about the profound psychological liberation of making that final, triumphant payment. After exactly 3 years of relentless focus, the mountain was gone. The heavy, invisible weight vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of lightness and endless possibility. They had not just paid off over $100,000, they had completely rewired their financial DNA, proving to themselves that they were capable of extraordinary discipline. The implications of this victory extend far beyond a simple zero balance on a screen. Without thousands of dollars leaving their checking account every month to service past choices, their entire income is now theirs to deploy. They can rapidly build a robust emergency fund, which is a dedicated savings account containing 3 to 6 months of living expenses designed to protect against unforeseen financial shocks. With an impenetrable safety net in place, the aggressive energy they once directed at debt is now forcefully pivoted toward investing. When you eliminate the drag of interest payments, you suddenly have the capital to capture the power of the broader market. they can now fully utilize investment vehicles, harnessing compound interest, the phenomenon where your earnings generate even more earnings over time. Because they learn to live happily on a fraction of their income, they have an incredibly high savings rate, allowing them to buy assets that will appreciate and pay them dividends for the rest of their lives. This journey challenges the deeply ingrained societal narrative that carrying debt is simply a normal, unavoidable part of modern life. We are constantly sold the illusion that monthly payments are the standard price of admission for adulthood. But this family story shatters that myth, demonstrating that normalcy is often just a trap designed to keep you working to enrich lenders instead of yourself. You have the power to reject that narrative and write a completely different script for your own life. If you are currently staring down your own mountain of obligations, the path forward begins with a single, brutally honest piece of paper. Write down every single thing you owe, from the smallest retail card to the largest student loan. Confront the total number without shame or judgment, because absolute clarity is the prerequisite for meaningful change. You cannot defeat an enemy you refuse to look in the eye. Once you have your list, arrange it by balance and prepare for battle. The math might tell you to target the highest interest rate first, but remember the lesson of the snowball. You need those quick, early wins to sustain your motivation through the long, grueling months ahead. When you knock out that first small balance, you will feel a surge of power that no spreadsheet can ever quantify. Simultaneously, you must ruthlessly audit your outflow. Where is your money leaking away on things that do not serve your ultimate goal of freedom? Every time you choose to cook at home instead of ordering delivery, you are making a deliberate choice to buy your future self a little more peace. Frugality is not a punishment. It is the ultimate expression of prioritizing your long-term prosperity over fleeting, short-term convenience. The sacrifices will be difficult, and there will be moments when you want to quit and return to the comfortable numbness of minimum payments. During those times, you must anchor yourself to your deepest reasons for starting. Why do you want to be debt-free? Is it to travel without guilt, to change careers without fear, or to ensure your children never have to carry the same financial burdens? Let that vivid picture of your future pull you through the temporary discomfort of the present. Remember that the discipline you are building right now is the exact same discipline required to manage massive wealth later. The frugal habits, the relentless tracking of expenses, and the ability to delay gratification do not expire once the debt is gone. They become the foundational pillars of your financial empire, ensuring that when you finally begin accumulating significant assets, you have the character and wisdom to keep them growing. Look for ways to artificially compress your timeline by increasing your income. We live in an era of unprecedented opportunity for side hustles and freelance work. Whether it is monetizing a hobby, consulting in your field of expertise, or simply picking up a few extra shifts, that supplemental income is the accelerant that will turn a 5-year payoff plan into a 3-year sprint. As the balances fall, you will notice a profound shift in your daily anxiety levels. The dread of checking your mail or answering unknown phone calls completely evaporates. You stop making decisions based on fear and start making them based on opportunity. The world opens up in magnificent ways when you no longer owe a massive portion of your labor to a bank. The story of paying off over $100,000 in just 3 years is not a fairy tale reserved for a lucky few. It is a highly actionable blueprint available to anyone willing to do the hard work. It requires an extreme, almost unreasonable commitment to a singular goal. But the reward on the other side of that sacrifice is a life where your money finally works for you, giving you the ultimate luxury of total financial freedom. You have the capacity to orchestrate this exact same transformation in your own life. It begins the moment you decide that your future is worth infinitely more than your past mistakes. Draw a line in the sand today, organize your snowball, and take that critical first step toward reclaiming your income, your peace of mind, and your ultimate prosperity. We believe in your ability to build this wealth step by step, starting right now.